Hello everybody, and thank you for tuning in. This is Fat Mike. Today we're going to talk about NeoFly. We're going to talk about a little about how setting it up, and we're going to do our first mission in it. We're not going to get too much into the setup, but we are going to talk about how to get in it, how to do our first mission, and some things you need to be cautious of whenever you do your first mission or any mission. So without further ado, go ahead and when you first start NeoFly the first time, you'll get this screen right here, which is this little box right here. And it's going to want you to make a pilot. So put whatever call sign you want in there. We're going to make this one, of course, Fat Mike. And our ICAO is the airport code of where we want to be. I like to fly out of 5 Romeo 4. Capitalization doesn't matter. It's going to give you a list of aircraft to choose from, the 152, the X-Cub, or the G1000. I like the G1000. It has over 800 pounds of carrying capacity. The 152 is a little lighter on carrying capacity, and the X-Cub, I'm not sure what it's got, but I just really don't care for the X-Cub. Alright, next we're gonna pick the G1000. I like to play survival. Now these other two are easier and there's different settings. I've never played them, but survival gives you the most experience, but it has harder rules that you have to abide by. If you crash your plane and die in game, you just lost that pilot. You have to start all over. So anyway, set all that up. Click add. It lets you know that pilot's added. Come down here, pilots added. From now on, when you come in here, the pilot will be down here. There's a drop down list because you can have more than one pilot. So Fat Mike's our only one. We're going to click start. Alright, so this should be the first thing you see. This is the mission screen, and to fly a mission, we're going to talk about all this other stuff too in further videos. We're going to go through each one of these. I'm going to show you what everything's used for. But for your first time, you want to go ahead and get you a Bing key. That's for your Bing maps right here that you're using. There's plenty of videos out there telling you how to get your Bing key. It's free, it's quick, it's easy to get. If you got a Google account, you can get your Bing key in no time flat. And you'll put that key in there, save it, and it updates everything. On this aircraft right here, this is where you can add aircraft to the NeoFly, and you set all the stuff, everything about it. I don't know if you set the price. I don't think you set the price, but that comes into that'll come into the type, not type, but I think it's the rating. Yeah, your qualification, and that determines how much it's going to be. I believe. I'm not quite sure how that works. But that's where you can set it all out. The Nav data reader, you want to download that and launch Nav data reader. It'll be a console screen that comes up, and it takes a few minutes the first time it runs. And then you want to update the NeoFly airports because it's reading I believe it's reading the data from the flight sim, the navigational data, and I update my flight sim with Navigraph, and that, so I'm pretty current on everything. Here you got game settings. You can do dark mode or light mode. It's easier on my eyes for dark mode. I'm kind of hard to see in, so white just really throws me off. In-game text, you can get that set up, but you can hear the voices pretty clearly. Now, if you don't go through and get all the add-ons like for this Elena, I have everything here because this is a great program, and I want to make sure that the developer of this get some profit from this because he's put a lot of work into it, and there's a bunch of updates. They keep updating it. But I keep in-game text turned off. Auto fuel, I've never turned that on, and I think what that does, it fills your hanger up with fuel whenever you get done. We'll go into that later. Here, you can change the setting of the colors. If you know if orange is just too much for you, I find that that color right there works good for me with that. And then you know, just soft colors works great for me. Nothing real extravagant, but this literally lets me see that black real well. Language, there's other languages you can get this in, but we're gonna keep it for English because I don't speak nothing else. Anyway, failures, you can turn failures on in here, and it'll give you failures and problems will arise. Neopad, if you're gonna install Neopad, you gotta go here and make sure that's clicked on to use Neopad. Your jet fuel cost and your general aviation fuel cost. This is dollars. This is way off, but we'll leave it right there for right now. I think you can go online to your nearest airport and find out what the cost of aviation fuel is at the current time there at the current FBO. But yeah, you can get more in depth with it with that. Alright, this tells you what all pro mode offers and what all sim mode offers. We got to keep the sim rate the same. We got to keep the slew the same. We can't crash. There's a security bonus, and if you die, you die. But anyway, there's campaigns. Note that before the campaigns, for both of them, for Fight the Pandemic and Finding Cleopatra, you got to have a helicopter. So, I haven't done either one of them yet, but I did read through them, and usually the last mission requires a helicopter, or the next to the last mission requires a helicopter. Multiplayer, if you got friends, you set this up. This is our finance, our flight log, where all we've flown, how many FBOs we're on. We'll go into all of this in future tutorials. Our hangar is pretty important right now. This tells us where airplane is in our hangar. Every airplane we own inside NeoFly that we purchase will be in this hangar, and they might be at different places according to how many people you got flying around. And we'll talk about staff later too, because there's some things you do right off the beginning of the game to become rich quick. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to take your time, you know, and just work your way up, that's good. But there are tips and tricks that you can use, and I will show you in later tutorials on how you can go in here and you can have millions of dollars by the end of just a couple of days. Alright, so this is our Cessna Skyhawk G1000 is located at 5 Romeo 4. You know, this is where you buy fuel. You see me do that. You move the slider over. So no, we don't want to remove the fuel, because if it's full, you don't have to do anything with it. This kind of tells us what our hull and engine is at, and we can do repairs of these. You just right click on it and you can say repair hull, overhaul engine. If the plane is somewhere and your pilot's somewhere else, and I can explain to you that later why you would do that, you can bring your pilot to this location. You can sell it from here. You can get insurance. You know, you can go to wherever that's at, and we can say right click on it and say, okay, we want to search for the missions at this location. So it brings us back to our mission screen where we started. We can transfer our pilot to another airport by just typing in the set pilot position, but we can either pay to go to that position and it'll just move us over there automatically. But if you do that, you got to pay to move your aircraft also. But very soon, money's not going to be an issue here. Or we can choose for it to create a mission for us to fly somewhere else. You know, if we want to, you know, if we're tired of flying around this little area or whatnot, and we want to base our operations somewhere else, and say we want to start flying whatever out of Cuba, we can say, you know, we can set up our ICAO to somewhere down here around Havana. There's an airport right here in Havana, which is right over here somewhere. And we can move ourselves down there. Right there is Havana. So Anyway, we no need to do that right now. What we want to do is we want to do our first mission. We want to get going. We want to see what things are all about. So in our missions here, there's some filters up here for when we search. Search for missions matching our rank. We want to do that. We don't want to be looking at missions we can't do. And matching the current plane that we, right clicked on. Now, also, because it's not going to throw missions up here that have more weight, more cargo, or more passengers than what this plane's capable of. But if you've got a couple different planes here at this, you want to turn this off. You know what your plane's going to handle by the time you go to having a couple different planes. Right here, that is hidden. I wonder what that is. Okay, that is for the airplane. This is for the pilot. Okay. Generate missions with only hard surface runway, no grass runways. This don't work. I've done it with grass runways. Let's say right here, I turn it back on. And do a search here. If we go in here and we look at the places it's got us flying, I can almost guarantee you somewhere in here is a grass runway. Never fails. So, anyway. Now, these filters here do not affect the search. Okay? There's 176 missions altogether at this airport. Bush, small trip, short haul, medium haul, long haul, and all. All you need to worry about to begin with is bush. The planes, you could do a small trip in a Cessna. It's a long ways. It pays a lot more, but it don't pay enough to make up for all your hauling. Stick with bush to begin with. I'd stay with bush till I got to Class B. And when I say Class B, this is your qualifications, A through F. You start off at A. You start off as a cadet. This is your XP and how much you need to get to the next rank. Now, crew and all that, we'll go through that later. But for right now, this is you right here. So we can only fly 8 aircraft. These are aircraft that are for sale at this airport that we're at the current time. You have to be at the airport. Or you could actually buy aircraft at another airport. There's ways to do that, and I'll show you that later. But at the airport you're at right now, I sorted it by category. And there's quite a few aircraft here that we could buy if we want to. There's the 152. The G-36 is a great airplane for doing bush. You can haul 1,050 pounds. The cost is $523,000. If we wanted to right now, we could buy this plane. Even though we only got $10,000, we could go to our finance and we could get any one of these loans. $72 million is quite a bit, but we could go here and we could borrow $1 million, and we could have it paid back pretty quick just by selling the plane we're in right now. But I digress. What we want to do is we want to learn how to fly a mission. So, to fly the mission, now bush, there's different types of missions. We got passenger, cargo, express, sensitive, VIP, wildfire, and the list goes on and on. I recommend, now you do what you want, but I recommend that you just worry about cargo missions to begin with and passenger missions. I'll explain why. The passenger missions and the cargo missions have an expiration date. They're within days. This has got to be done by the 19th. It's got to be the 18th. You see right here on my screen, it's the 15th. But you get down here, like these mail missions, it wants you to deliver this by 2:28 a.m. 2:04 a.m. You got 24 minutes to get loaded, to take off, get landed, and get unloaded. It's not feasible. That's the 2R5. That's all the way to Grand Bay, dadgum there. So that ain't worth it. And the pay ain't worth it. The best paying missions, you can sort these by pay, is cargo and passenger. Now you can see the distance here is 39 miles. If I click this, it's going to show me the flight path from where I'm at is where this little icon and this icon right here with this tower is where I'm at. This icon right here is where my airplane is, or whatever airplane. Everywhere I got an airplane, one of these will show up and tell me what it is and what's in the cargo hold. This mission here is to the Choctaw Outline Naval Field. There's a bunch of naval fields around here. If you see my first video about what you should first do when you get in Flight Simulator, I did that tutorial right in this area. There's a lot of military traffic through here. So anyway, now we need to know stuff about this field. So if you click the little orange dot, there's no ILS here. It tells me the altitude, how many hard runways there are, the length of the longest runway, how much it costs to put an FBO here, which we're not going to worry about that right now, and how many runways got lights, all 3 of them. So it's cool to fly this at nighttime if we fly it at night. If you want to fly like live with other players, you can fly this at nighttime. It's cool. There's a place to land. You can see where you're going to land. A lot of airports, you would be surprised, do not have lights. So anyway, that's 39 miles. So the first thing we want to do, I'm going to turn all these others off because all I'm worried about, and more missions become available, different types of missions come available, the more rank you get as far as leveling up through XP. This right here is a filter to say what's the maximum load of cargo we want to take. Your plane can carry 867 pounds of cargo. The Cessna, the G1000 Cessna can carry 867 pounds of cargo. Now that does include your pilot's weight, which NeoFly figures your pilot weight in to 870 pounds. So you'll have to add that to like this 245. That's how much your cargo weighs here, or how much the passengers weigh. One passenger, 163 pounds. We'll talk about that in a minute also. The max number of passengers that you can carry, the 172 can carry 3 passengers. So it's not going to throw a mission up here that's over three people. You know, so we can click on that. The max distance for the mission filter. Now we've got 640 miles. That's the maximum distance we can travel in the Cessna. But none of these missions in the Bush mission are going to be that far. They're all going to be local. Also, we can tell whether we want lights, hard, and ILS. I keep lights on, but I'm not sure this is working, and that's where you turn that on. All right, so we've got a mission here, 5R4 to November Foxtrot Juliet, which is Choctaw Naval Outlying Field. So what we'll do is we'll right click on that and we will click fly. Don't worry about any of this other stuff. We'll go over all this later. But we'll click fly. And what that does, it takes us to our flying screen. We were on missions, we went to flying. And what we see right here we see that we're flying a cargo mission. We got 245 pounds of cargo, no passengers, where we're flying from and where we're flying to, the distance, the deadline that it's got to be there, how much it's going to pay us, and any special request. More complicated missions will have requests like land less than 200 feet per second, or, you know, no bank angles over 45 degrees, things like that. MFS Connect, it's waiting to connect to the flight simulator. You want to ensure that the aircraft right here is the aircraft that you own. It tells us what qualification it is. If we're carrying goods, that'll be right here. Our mission weight, how much fuel we have in our hangar, and what the condition is of our plane and where we're located. Now this log here, when we get into the flight simulator, we'll see this log light up with all kind of messages. And we'll talk about stat missions next, in the next tutorial. So I highly recommend that you get NeoFly, NeoPad, if you don't have dual monitors. I have dual monitors, and so I tend to set this off to the side of my other monitor. But what we got to do here is we got to fly from 5R4 to November Foxtrot Juliet. So we'll go ahead and set up a flight plan. And we've already got our Cessna picked out. 5R4. And we'll select our arrival airport as Juliet, Choctaw, NOF. Alright, 45 nautical miles. Takes about 37 minutes to fly there. If we don't adhere by any traffic rules, which we're not. We're not going to have any traffic. Alright, I'm going to set the flight conditions to clear. And time of day here for this tutorial. I like to fly live missions, but that can be a lot of talking. Now, you can start on the runway, fired up, ready to go. But I'm going to start on the parking ramp because I want to show you some things. Alright. Now, I'm not going to set my weights and fuel yet. Not till I get out there. The reason being is sometimes I have set my weights and fuel up in here, then got on the ramp over here in the simulator, and everything will be off. And you just have to do it again. And we can do that in here. Okay, so we're sitting at 5R4. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set our weights and balances now. We're going to turn our NeoPad on. Well, it's awaiting connection. My bad. We know that we need 245 pounds. 245 pounds of mission weight and 175 pounds for the pilot. So that is 415 pounds. So to set our weight up, we'll bring up our weights and balances. And if you want, you can go through here and set those all up individually. I just take this slider here. Look at this number right here. What did I say, 415 pounds? And slide that over to 400. Try to get as close as I can. So we're going to say 415 pounds plus my flight bag, 4 pounds. Make sure that once you set this in, 50% fuel was more than enough to get us there and back a couple times. But you want to set your center of gravity. Now I like to put that all the way forward so the nose drops down and then set it back like such. Alright, once we got that dialed in, we'll go ahead and click connect and fly.
Transporter from dispatch. Good morning. The cargo mission will start as soon as you get in your aircraft and set the payload. Transporter from dispatch. Loading cargo. Please stand by.
Alright, so you want to make sure all these lights are green. The motor doesn't have to be on to start this. If the motor was on, that would be green. But the park and brake doesn't have to be set. You know, it's telling me here that if I hadn't had 415 pounds, this would have been 414. This mission wouldn't have connected and started. I would have had to adjust my weight. But I've got 4 over, so it's telling me, hey, you got 4 over.
Transporter from dispatch. The cargo is on board. You are cleared to taxi to the runway and take off.
Okay. Other than telling us have a nice trip, that's all we're going to hear out of her for the rest of the mission. Until we get there. So now we need to focus on taking off. And I'm sure all of you know how to do this by now. But NeoFly is looking for certain things. So let's turn these off right quick. There's a couple things it's looking for. Number one, turn your battery on. Well, your battery. And before you start these engines, you better make sure you got the beacon and the strobe on. One or the other, or both. Okay? So we'll go ahead and get this thing set up to fly. Fuel valves on. Fuel selectors on both. Go ahead and kick our fuel pump on for 3 seconds. I like to push my throttle all the way in, let it get out in there. Turn that off, bring it back down. Run it in just a little bit, pull out on the mixture. Push that mixture in, chokes it right up. Alright, turn our alternator on, our avionics. Turn our taxi lights on. If you taxi without taxi lights on or landing lights, one or the other, it's going to penalize you. Just turn all your lights on to begin with. If our beacon and our strobe hadn't have been on when we started the motor up, it would penalize us. NeoFly requires that this beacon or the strobe be on before you crank that motor up. Remember that. And also remember that you cannot taxi over 30 mile an hour. I think it's either 25 or 30 mile an hour. If you get over that, it's going to penalize you. You're going to lose your security. That's what your security bonus is if you don't violate any rules or company policies, we'll put it that way, you get an extra bonus. So you can make quite a bunch of money if you've got several missions at one time, but that's going in the stack missions. But we're still going to make a lot more. We're going to get a bonus to experience. We're going to get a bonus in money. So anyway, for this flight, I'm just going to climb up to 2,500 feet. Fly over there real quick. Set our autopilot and nav. Okay. Now, I forgot which way the wind was blowing on this. We'll check our, see if we got a weather channel. Yeah.
Kilo Charlie, Quebec, Foxtrot, automated weather observation 1700 Zulu. Wind 273 at 3.
Okay, so 273. We're going to be taking off from one way 36. So we got one-way 3.6 and one-way 1.8. Now I'm gonna fly this thing over there. I will make sure you turn the parking brake off. I'm gonna set my camera up. I'm gonna fly this thing over there. I'll keep you with me till I get taken off. I'm gonna run over this dude. He's always in the way. Like I said, take your time taxiing. Taxi out there. I tell you, NeoFly has really made this simulator a lot better. As you can see, I've got 24 hours on the on this aircraft right here, and that's a lot for Cessna inside this game. As many other aircraft there is, but I love flying these little bush trips. You know, just something quick to do. You know, get on there, fly a little bush trip, do something. Now we've already got the waypoint set in there to the airport. I'm going to show you a few tricks. Also, once I get up in the air, that will help you get to any airport and land anywhere you want to go. It's cheating. It's not cheating, but it's simulating. But the G1000, I am using the NXI model also, guys. I highly suggest, if you haven't already, go to the marketplace inside your flight simulator and download the NXI. It is amazing. It'll do vertical navigation and everything, and I'm gonna show you that here soon. So anyway, we'll make sure we ain't got no traffic coming. Of course we don't, because we don't have traffic turned on. We'll put our flaps down one notch, and we're gonna go ahead and turn them taxi lights off, and let everybody know we're taking off. So, oh, we're on runway 18. Which it don't really matter because it's a 3-knot wind.
Transporter, have a nice flight.
Alright, so there she is. She just told us to have a nice flight. We're going to raise our flaps. We'll get up to altitude, and I'm gonna show you a little thing you can do that'll help you out if you're having trouble figuring out how you need to be when you fly into an airport that doesn't have a tower or anything like that. Every airport has an approach, so we'll set it up an approach, and we're gonna fly straight in. Set our vertical speed. Autopilot to on. Vertical speed 700 is a good climb. You can also do the FLC mode, which I forgot to do, but you really need to do that before you take off. You could do it here. Tells it to climb at 98. You can adjust that because the perfect climb rate for this airplane is like I think about 75, 74 knots. You can see right here we've got our flight level change set to 74 knots. Autopilot set the GPS. Now I can tell you the wind's going to be blowing out of the west over here, because it's going to be the same across the board. We're not going that far. So what we want to do is we want to go to our procedures, select approach. There is no tower at this airport, but we can got visuals. So we're going to go ahead and set our visual to the 30. Let's look at our map first. Let's see what our runway is going to look like. So we can go here. We can scroll in. You know what? Let's round down runway 36 here. That sounds good. You can click center plane on there if you've got a side monitor, and it'll follow your route. Or if you downloaded NeoPad, you can go up here and you can click your NeoPad. Now what that's going to do, you click on this little icon right here. That's going to center in on your plane. It's like you got a little PDA in the cockpit with you. You got satellite view, and you got regular view here. Road map, satellite, no terrain. You got this is your flight plan, which isn't very informative at all. A lot of these features aren't very informative at all. This is multiplayer status, weather. I don't have my MEDAR data tagged into this yet. Log, what all she's been saying. It doesn't have any of this in there. Right here we go. Our plane. Everything about it. The mission. Anyway. So, our approach. So we're going to land on runway 36. Hit enter, and we're gonna go for the straight in approach. Hit enter. Alright, then we're gonna activate it. Enter. Okay, so now what's happened there is it's gonna fly to the straight in visual approach. It's gonna we're gonna come in on base leg. If we can see here, well, we can't see there. Let's see our radar here if we can still make it out. But we're gonna come down here. We're gonna fly south of the airport, and then we're gonna come to where we can make a left-hand turn and come right in on final. So we're gonna do a straight-in approach to that airport. As you can see, we're flying through all kind of airspace. We would probably get shot down at this point when we get right up here if we didn't make contact with them, because there's a fighter base right here, a naval air station. So yeah, don't don't practice this at home, kids. Alright, so now, as you see right here, don't need this. You see right here, these are altitudes. We can go over here and we can click. Now that, are we at altitude yet? Yeah, we're at altitude. Alright, so we can go ahead and we can dial this back down. You see it's saying 463 right here. Well, we can just turn this back down to 0 and we click VNav. And when it gets, it's gonna turn for us. Man, we could land it with this if we wanted to. I don't recommend that. That's not cool. I mean, you could do it. It's been done. You land pretty hard, but there are ways to work the throttle to where you do land pretty soft. But as you can see, it's got us going all the way in. There's no ILS. It's just line us up with the runway, and it's gonna put us where we need to be when we get there. So anyway, we'll get there. I'll go ahead and fly this there, and I'll bring you back with the magic of video editing right before we land, and we'll go over how all this ends. Okay, so here we are. We're coming to the top of our descent. As you can see, it's following us on the map. We're right over the East Bay right now, just south of Milton. We got every fighter jet in the country chasing after us after we flew over the Pensacola Naval Air Station now, without making any contact. So as you can see, I'm starting to make my descent, so I'm gonna go ahead and ease off the throttle here. Now, this tutorial doesn't teach you how to fly the Cessna at all. I'm flying this very haphazardly. I just want to show you what you got to do to get your first mission done, and this is just something that might help you out. There's a lot of tutorials out there on the G1000 and navigating with the G1000. Great tutorials. A lot of great tutorials on NeoFly also, but I just like to throw my 2 cents in. Well, what gets things going the quickest. So as you can see, it's going to adhere by the flight plan rules of our vertical navigation rules. It's going to keep us down, and it's even going to turn us on runway 36. And if we wanted to, when we got up here, when this glide scope ball right here, there is no glide scope. This is just detecting the flight path. When that gets right here to this middle section here, you could hit approach and it would take you in for a landing. But we don't need to do that. I mean, but we could, but we don't need to. But if you're not good at landing yet, maybe you should practice landing before you actually work with NeoFly, because there are going to be some missions, like I said, that pay good, that require you to land less than 200 feet per minute, which is still kind of a rough landing at 200 feet per minute. It's pretty rough landing. So we're getting lined up on runway 36. I like to set myself further back in the seat like this. I get more of a wider angle of view. I'm not really worried about the instruments at this point, unless I'm flying AFR, which I rarely do. But when I do, I will be closer to the instruments. That's what I use this view for. You see they're right there where I can read them, but back here I really can't read them that well. Alright, so I'm going to slow this bird down. We haven't actually hit final yet. Give it some flaps. Get it down to about 65 knots. You can come in hotter than that if you want, but a lot of people frown on that. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the autopilot off. The flight director will stay with me though, so that helps a lot, having the flight director. Easy as she goes. Slide down there and just lightly kiss it, like you kiss your second cousin. But hey, who's counting? Anyway.
We have touchdown. Welcome. Please vacate the runway and proceed to parking.
Yeah, Alright, this is where we're gonna park. Come to a stop, turn your parking
Stand
brake
by,
on.
pilot. Cargo unloading.
Okay, now they're unloading the cargo. You're gonna hear some rattling on around there. It takes them a few minutes. But don't do nothing till all these lights turn red. Once they turn red, you've got your money. You see we got 9,868 because we filled our fuel up. We landed at 54 feet per second. Our vertical feet of 54 feet per minute, which is pretty good landing. It tells us we've landed. It gives an update on everything. This goes from the bottom to the top. They're unloading it. And make sure you got your landing lights on when you land too, because when you land, it will dock your pay if you haven't got your landing lights on. I need to put some hurry up sauce on it.
Transporter. Another cargo mission completed. Thanks, and see you soon.
Okay, it's done with us. So let's go here. Let's shut this down. Alright. Now, we've landed there. If we wanted to, we didn't have to exit that simulator. We could go right back here to the mission and get another mission leaving from here and take on off the runway, because we didn't even use up a quarter of the runway landing. It'd come back out there, it'd fill us back up as long as our parking brake was set and we had our weights and adjustments right. We reset our weights and adjustments, and it will come out there and we just take back off. But that's not what we did. So we've landed. It tells us how many pounds of fuel we used, how many pounds of fuel, we had when we started. We got a bonus for landing. We got a bonus for comfort, which we didn't have passengers, but it still gave us a bonus for comfort because we never, if you bank that thing over 45 degrees, it's going to penalize you for that too. We got a bonus for security because we had our lights on. We had we kept our taxi below speed. We survived. That's enough in itself. So we've got $14,135 now. Now from here, we can pick another mission to go somewhere else. This is all the missions available at this location. You want to keep sensitive on. I don't do express. I do the VIPs. I don't do the wildfires or the parachuting or the secret passengers. I do the secret passengers. No emergencies or advertising. I haven't got to the illicit yet. No tourists, no search and rescue. I don't do the interceptions. I haven't got to airline yet, which we ain't got to worry about here. Humanitarian, we ain't got to worry about here. And the helicopters, I'm not interested in the helicopters, but that's it has a helicopter in here that if it's the it's that helicopter that's in the marketplace. It's like really expensive, like $29. So, but it does have like the Airbus 135 and the 125, I believe. And if you've got other helicopters, like I said, you can get. I'll show you how to in another tutorial of how to go in here and add an aircraft. But we've done our first mission. We've got our pay for it. We did what we wanted to do. Like I said, this is not a tutorial about how to fly the Cessna. This is a tutorial about how to do your first mission. Key things to remember: have your parking brake set when you hit that. When you hit this button right here, have your parking brake set. Have your weights right. Whatever the mission weight is, plus 170 pounds. That's what it's looking for. If that's not set right, you're doing it wrong. It won't let you start. Make sure you got the proper aircraft selected. If for some reason you got the wrong aircraft selected and you hit connect and fly, you have to shut down NeoFly and then restart it to fix that. So in our next lesson, I believe we're going to talk about stacked missions, because you can start doing stacked missions pretty quick. There's not a stacked mission at this airport. Not one that I'd be interested in doing. We could do stacked missions in the next tutorial, and we talk a little bit more about the program. I hope you caught something here that you needed. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.